Welcome to Lifestyle by SK, where wine, cigars, and relationships create that tapestry of extraordinary experience. So, I have a very good topic today that I want to discuss, and is you're not acting white, you're just being undisciplined. And this conversation is definitely going to have some topics and different points that's going to go around the conversations that we have about code switching is what we're so used to hearing when we are around our friends and around our family. And these are not honest conversations. And these conversations apparently are so emotional. And then sometimes they are excuses for us to do better. And so this is a very, very big deal within the Black community itself. With Black people, we have these particular type of stereotypes that do surround us. And we always have these when we find a Black person that is really trying to move their life in a positive direction. Their peers will always say they acting white as if that is a standard. Now, keep in mind that no matter what cultural background that you are from, there's going to be stereotypes about your people that are going to be out there. That is across the board because it's not one above the other. That's not the conversation that we're having. The focus that I want you all to have is when we're talking about this particular topic, we need to just stop dressing it up. When you find that there are Black people who are trying and wanting in the progress of moving into a positive direction, that we have to stop putting the label on it is they're acting white. So let's get into the nitty gritty of this because it's very important that we run this topic through. If you looked at the last video that I did, when I talked about when professionalism is framed as acting white, and if you listen to that particular episode that I did, you're definitely going to like this one even more because it hits a little bit deeper and it hits a little bit different as we're going through it. Now, if you can speak clearly in certain environments, and then in other environments you choose not to in others, that is what people would deem is what they would call code switching and acting white. Now, the thing that is most common is with everybody else, they're not code switching. The same way that they are at parties, it's the same way they are in the boardroom, the same way that they are at church, the same way that they are when they're talking with their family and when they're talking with their friends. But we seem to be the only people, Black people seem to be the only people where we act one way at work, we act another way when we're at home. So, you don't believe me? Let's have a reality check. When you're at work and you're around your colleagues, you're out and about with them, how do you act? Then, when you come home and you're around your family, you're around your cousins, you're around your aunts and your uncles, how do you act? I'm willing to bet that for most of us, it is completely different. And that is just what it is. Now, that's not authenticity. You're not even being authentic with your true self. What I see is so much inconsistency that goes on because we can't even keep the road straight. I want more positive things to come about from us within our community. And in order for that to happen, a lot of people don't like that. They don't like it. They are scared to say something about it because we've created this idea that being real means that you have to be the same way in every single room. The ratchetness has to be across the whole board. And we don't have to be that at all because that's not how the world works. By no means is how the world works because when we look into the different rooms. Each room that we in has a specific standard, and we all know this. For example, if you go into court, you're going to be speaking a certain way. You're going to make sure that you are speaking much more eloquently. When you are in a boardroom, you're going to speak, of course, a certain way. You have a job interview, you're going to speak a certain way and carry yourself a certain way. That is most definitely understandable. But across all these environments, you must communicate with clarity. So whether you're speaking to your family members at Thanksgiving dinner or you're speaking to the people within your home that you live with every day, we have to speak a specific way and learn to speak better, learn to structure our words better. And that is not selling out by any means. And so when you have other peers that are telling you you should not speak or you should not carry yourself a certain way, what that means is they are too lazy to get up and actually learn to speak a different way, let alone learn to speak another language, learn to better themselves and get themselves out of in loopholes and environments that they are in. They're being lazy about it. And so if you are one of these people out here that used to talk a specific way and then you moved the goalposts and you begin to think and actually structure your words differently to better who you are, then what you're doing is you are progressing and you are growing. And we talk a lot about that on this relationship channel. I talk a lot about people progressing because it is very important that we do so. Because the only other consequences behind it is you're going to have the same people within our community talking about you, telling you that you're acting white as if that is the standard, and it is not. The standard is for people to be appropriate, respectful, able to communicate, and they have understanding of what is going on around them, and they know when to pick and choose their battles. That is the standard. So what we must do is stop making it so racial and holding one ethnicity higher than the other in that regard. That is what we are missing here. And this is going to make people uncomfortable. I get that. You're supposed to be uncomfortable. I want you to be uncomfortable because some people are being judged because they are too proper. You all know exactly what I'm talking about. You've seen it in your high school class, you've seen it in your college classes, you've even seen it at work. We have to move beyond this because what's happening is the people are being overlooked because they lack discipline in how they present themselves. So when we're around our friends, are we holding our friends to a higher standard to speak a specific way? Which I understand the Black community, we have so many different words and slang words and our terminology and the way that we say words and our terms of endearment. I get all of that when you're around your homeboys and homegirls. But at some point, this abundance and all this jargon is being carried into business spaces. See, a lot of people, especially younger people today, they can text all these different words and the abundance and all that, but they can't hold a clear conversation if they had a job interview. And that is a very big problem that we have. Now, what I want to look at is we label the people who do carry themselves well, but we don't label the people who is out here using words just any kind of way and not even caring what they're actually saying and not even caring about the repercussions behind that. That is what we have. That is completely backwards. What we should be doing is having the people who know how to speak, the people who know how to talk and carry themselves should be the ones who should be able to help elevate the people who are unable to speak that way. Because keep in mind, in our community, we have so many young people who can barely read. And I know we hear this statistic all the time. We hear this all the time on so many different podcasts, but it now makes sense that if you are unable to read, it's kind of a little bit hard for you to be able to talk because you're not able to learn much more quote unquote affluent words in order to have conversations with people who may be on a higher level in terms of the way that they are going. That's not that's not a bad perspective at all. And so when we look at the identity versus the behavior, speaking properly is by no means is not a race. We have to stop going around thinking that because somebody speaks proper, that it equates to being white. We have to stop going around and say speaking in a negative and ironic way means that that person is black. We have to stop that. This is a very, very big problem because what happens in the music, in our rap music, we use so many ebonics. That's how the kids talk. I heard calling each other bruh, sis, twin, and everything else, which is crazy. This is a problem from music to people. Very big problem. And then we wonder why we can't go into spaces or be invited into spaces because it's a shame when your friends know that they can invite you to certain places and not invite you to others. They'll invite you to the club and kick and hang out, but they will not invite you to any other part because that is most definitely a sad space to be in there. And I completely understand how people can get to this way because we hear it so much coming through school. We hear this so much and we base everything that we talk about, do, and discuss based on the color of somebody's skin and their race. And that's a problem that we as humans have to fix, but also within our community is how we fix because there are so many times I've seen young black adults, young black teenagers, young black kids, even older black people would speak a certain way and they will look at you like you're crazy because you're structuring your words right and you're actually thinking about what you're saying before you actually say it. And we don't even take the time and opportunity to even respond back and educate them on when to just shut up and when to actually open their mouth and actually talk because we're so quick to get the first word out. We're so quick to check somebody and embarrass somebody in front of people. And sometimes I get it because sometimes people do things in society that is completely wrong and people are very much more vocal. I understand that in some aspects. And I'm not walking around trying to tell people you should, just go out here and just speak in such a manner where you can't correct somebody if they need to. That's not the direction. That's not the path that I'm trying to take. I'm talking about overall majority of the conversations that we are having with the people that are around us, especially people that we love and the people that we are around and hang out with. If we can't hold our conversations and selves to a high degree in the standard, so when we do have the opportunity to interact, especially when it comes to business, that we know how to actually talk. And that is where we have to get to because I'm looking at it is the way that you speak and the way that you communicate. If you can do it better, and if doing it better helps you get a better career opportunity and close business deals, would you do it? Maybe that should be in a good incentive within the community because we have to have it. Now, articulating your thoughts clearly is not a culture. Articulating your thoughts is in a manner in which the way that you carry yourself, the way that you speak, and how people are attracted to what you're saying. Just think about it, especially those of you that are going into politics. It's almost like you can't go into politics and not know how to talk if you can kind of catch the drift. If you want an example, look at former President Barack Obama. Look at how the way that he spoke. Look at how the way that he thought about what he was saying when he first started running for office. People talked about how eloquent that he spoke, how he dressed, how he carried himself, how his family carried themselves. And when you're like that, people are going to hold you to a higher degree. They're going to hold you to a higher standard. They're going to make sure that you do not mess up. And people will mess up. People will slip up. I get it. Sometimes people get on your nerve. You want to tell them off. I get that. That happens. That's expected. There's always room for improvement in a whole lot of areas. But being professional is not a betrayal. These are skills that we have to learn. Because how many of you have ever thought about taking speaking lessons or coaching sessions on how to talk and how to speak? How many of you have actually done a debate? How many of you have actually had family discussions where you all just have a random topic to discuss to prove your points and your sides so that you can think about your thoughts consistently and move from that? See, we don't have these a lot of times in the Black community. We didn't have them a lot growing up. What we had was a lot of conversations with friends, a lot of times nonsense, non-constructive. But if you open your ears long enough, you'll begin to hear conversations around you that make sense and things are getting done. When we're communicating with people, are we getting things done or are we just shooting a breeze? Because mind you, we can talk about sports all day. We can talk about non-constructive things all day, sports, music, entertainment. We can talk about those all day, won't skip a beat, and we can articulate these statistics when it comes to those in a way that you would think a person's a sportscaster. But when it comes to talking about real progress within our community, within the Black community, we begin to stutter on those particular topics. We stutter in a way that our thoughts are not comprehending anything that's what's going on. And a lot of times we don't even know our local politicians on a local level within our own county, let alone our state. That is a problem that we have. Identity versus that behavior. But then you have to look at the accountability mindset within that as well. We're looking at that accountability mindset. If there is like if the way that you communicate is holding you back, you really got a few options. We can at least name two of them. We can at least name two of them. You either are going to adjust or you're going to stay stuck. And let me give you a little push here. What you can't do is shame people who made the adjustment. And those are the people that's getting the biggest ridicule today going on. There was a video that I was talking about a while back. A young lady was talking about, a young Black lady was talking about these Black young men who were starting to dress up in, I guess, Carnegie's and suit and tie. And she was calling them corny. Like, it's stuff like that that just upsets people because you're not talking about the people who got their pants all down below their waist. See, she wasn't talking about them. She wasn't talking about those guys. She was talking about the ones that were cleaned up, that was trying to get somewhere and do something. But you want to keep people from being around you and you want to keep people running scared, start talking about stuff that is constructive. They'll disappear real quick. But you want to keep people around, continue to talk about nonsense. Always keep people around. Because the real reason that people push back, and we can go a little bit deeper in this at a later time for sure, but just to give you a little bit of insight, sometimes when people say you've changed, what they're really saying is that you're not comfortable staying where I am anymore. So they want you to stay stagnant, just like them, not doing anything, not pushing yourself forward, not moving the goalpost or needle forward. They want you to stay the same. Or you're not like you used to be in high school. Of course, you're supposed to change. I expect any of you to change. If you are still the same person that you are right now in your grown adult life that you were in high school, that is a problem. And that is not a flex, people. That is a disgrace. Disgracing yourself and disgracing your family. And I hope that you all found some truth in what I'm talking about today in this video. because we definitely need to have more real conversations like this. But what I want you to think about is, I always say, if you didn't catch anything else out of this whole video, or you're just looking for high points, growth will always look fake. It's going to always look fake. But to people who are committed to staying the same. So if you got some friends out there, they'll say that you're fake because you have grown beyond where they currently are. So I ask you this, and I want you to honestly think about it. Definitely post in the comments below as you like, listen, subscribe to the channel, as I always like to tell you all. But are you comfortable? Are you being authentic, or are you avoiding discipline? Because it takes that discipline to level up to the next level. So once again, people, I hope that you liked the information today in this episode. I definitely challenge the conversation around code switching and the authenticity and the professionalism. And are people really acting different, or they simply developing discipline and awareness around the things that they are doing? Because this is so important for us to have a reality check on our growth, accountability, and development, on how we can present ourselves in different environments. So once again, like, listen, subscribe to the channel. Lifestyle by SK, where wine, cigars, relationships create that tapestry of extraordinary experience. And as always, you all have a good one.